So today we're looking at the Ultra Hybrid T, but also the Lumen series with that new camera control button. And why not start with that one, since the button is still very popular. And funny enough, it's very similar to the Spigen Ultra Hybrid T. It also features those silicone sides, pretty much identical camera bump, even though it's less prominent on the Otterbox. And if it were not for the backplate, I would have trouble seeing which one is which. Now there is some takeaways though, like the little bumps on the Spigen T, so it can lay flat on a table due to that more prominent camera bump. But the Otterbox Lumen doesn't need it because it's slimmer here. Or the sides, which are much grippier on the Otterbox, much like the UEG Plio for instance. The Spigen T does not really have that as much, and because of that frosted backplate, it will be a little slippier too. The clear backplate on the Otterbox is as grippy as the sides, so the grippiness aspect is certainly won by Otterbox here. The magnets on the other hand are like a 5.5 on the Otterbox and a solid 8 on the Spigens. The fit is pretty much the same, which is good because it's really good on both now. And other than that, the only difference I could find is that the buttons are a little smaller on the Otterbox Lumen. The frosted backplate on the Spigen case is awesome against fingerprints. And you'll notice how quickly that becomes a problem with this case here. So that's something you should keep in mind as well. Then when we're talking camera control buttons, it's the same thing here too. You can very clearly see that the Spigen Ultra Hybrid T's button is much bigger. Not to say that this is any less responsive or anything, because they seem to be exactly the same actually. But the biggest difference I noticed was the clickiness of the button and the fact that the Lumen button is deeper into the case, which is a very subtle difference, but very obvious once you compare the two. Overall speaking, that button performs very well, and I'd say that they are pretty much equal to me. Me personally, I'd like strong MagSafe, so that will be a deciding factor, but other than that, this case is very comfortable and grippy. And I love the UEG Plio, so since that is very similar as far as the material goes, I'd be very happy with this one as well. Very clicky buttons as well, which is always good. And I think the black details look very good with the Desert Titanium. On the Lumen, the sides aren't transparent either compared to the partly transparent on the Spigen T. And I also noticed there is a shiny outer layer on the MagSafe ring on the Otterbox Lumen, which is a fun detail, but it looks off as well. Can't really decide whether or not I like it. If we're really nitpicking, the MagSafe ring is feelable on the inside of the Lumen case. Even though without sharp edges or anything, you can feel the difference in material, whereas with the Spigen case, you cannot feel it from either side as it's sort of melted in there. Lastly, the price, and here it's bad news for the Otterbox. At 50 USD compared to a very similar case, and on some aspects better, which is like 26 USD, I just cannot see its place in the current market.